What's going on, everybody? It's Big L here, and this is our Week 1 matchup against Coach Bucks and the Bronx Blastoise. Um, if you watch the team builder, you already know what I'm bringing, why I'm bringing it, and we'll just get into what he brought. So we see that he brings the Umbreon, the Mega Mawile, the Shiinotic, the Salazzle, the Crocodile, and Starmie. The first thing I noticed was no Diggersby, which was a huge relief because if you watched our team builder, you saw that I was absolutely terrified of that Pokemon. So whenever I saw the Umbreon, I kind of thought he might bring it. I wasn't sure. I absolutely expected the Mega Mawile. Shiinotic, I didn't really do much prep for, but it does what it does, which is put things to sleep. The Salazzle, I thought there was a good chance would come. Not seeing the Diggersby meant I was not surprised to see Crocodile at all. And the Starmie was another one of those Pokemon that it didn't really surprise me that it came. I wouldn't have been surprised if he'd have left it on his bench either. So let's get right into the battle and we'll see how he did. So whenever I was thinking about the leads, my original plan was to lead Heatran if I saw Mienshao. When I didn't see Mienshao, I thought Mega Lopunny seemed like the safest lead against his team. I could scout for what he wants to go for, see what he maybe wants to lead, scout for things like a Scarf or something like that, which is exactly what I did. Whenever he leads the Crocodile, I decided to just go for a fake out. I didn't really see much of a drawback to that play, and if he stayed in, it's pretty safe for me to assume that he's Scarfed, because if I'd have gone for a close combat there, he loses his Crocodile turn 1, and he's not going to want to risk that unless he's Scarfed. So we see that I get the fake out off and that he flinches. So he did, in fact, that does in fact lead me to believe that he is a Scarf Crocodile turn 1, which is great information to have. So I decide I'm going to go out into my Togekiss, and I'm going to see what he wants to go for, see if he wants to go for an Earthquake or a Superpower or something like that. Which, if you watch, he ends up going for the close combat. So he did bring the close combat on Crocodile, which was just good prep. He brought this specifically for my Mega Lopunny, it seems like. So we can, going forward, know that he has that. And that's great information to have in 2 turns. That this is more than likely a Scarf Crocodile, and that he does have the close combat for Lopunny. So here, I decide I don't think he's going to switch into anything that my Togekiss wants to be in. I decide early, I'm going to go ahead and pull a double here. I half expected him to go into Salazzle here, which is why I went into Vaporeon. If I had known that he was going to go into Umbreon, I probably would have gone right back out into Mega Lopunny. But, I don't think this is a bad situation for us. I can go ahead and try to get a slow flip turn off. I can see if he wants to try to get a Toxic off. I can learn some things about this set, which is early game. Learning information is key. So, resume it. You see, he goes ahead and switches, and I just get a nice little flip turn off on Starmie, and I get to put myself in a good position. And I go out into Sarina. I know that there's nothing he can go for that can 2-hit KO me because I am a Salt Vest. I live 2 Specs Ice Beams from this thing, so I know there's no way he can 2-hit KO me. And so I think to myself, you know what? He's probably going to switch. I'm just going to go for a knockoff here. And he goes out into his Mawile. And that kind of surprised me. I don't think he probably expected me to go for a U-turn or a knockoff or even a grass move, because a grass move wouldn't do that much to Mawile. I saw that it wasn't Intimidate, so I'm assuming maybe it was Hyper Cutter. So my Trop Kick couldn't lower its attack. So we see here, he goes, I obviously don't want to stay in on this, so I go for the U-turn, and I go out into Heatran. I don't think there's much of a chance that he's going to go for a Brick Break if he brings it on Sarina. I'm assuming if he does go for a move, an offensive move, he's either just going to go for a Play Rough or a Swords Dance is what I expected him to go for, and this Heatran set lives any move he wants to go for. So here we see he goes for Stealth Rocks. On the switch out. I just go for a Magma Storm, thinking, hey, I don't think he's going to leave this in. I just want to get a big hit off on whatever he brings in. He brings the Umbreon in. And with that, I can see that he's specially defensive. So We get the Magma Storm off, it hits. I can see the Umbreon is especially defensive. And so I take this as an opportunity. I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and get my rocks up. This thing can't really do anything to me. He just goes for the wish, takes the Magma Storm chip. I go out to my Togekiss. And I think to myself, you know, I can do one of two things here. I can defog, I can soft boiled, or I can just go for an air slash just to see how much it would do. Maybe try to get a flinch, you know, just try to chip this thing down a little bit, or get a little chip damage on something coming in that he wants to pass that wish to, like the Mega Mawile or the Starman's going to have a little chip damage on it. So we see here, I just go for the defog. I decide I don't want rocks up. His team really isn't weak to rocks to begin with. They were nice to have up, but I don't really feel like I needed them. So I just decided to go for the defog. I figured I didn't want my Togekiss switching in on him a lot. As he just goes for another wish. Here, he goes out into Starmie. I go for the air slash, and whenever I see how much that does, I was very surprised. It definitely told me he was full offensive. And at this point, I was wondering if it was specs. So on this next turn, I kind of take a little bit of a gamble, and I just stay in and I go for an air slash because I did my calcs. I knew there was no way I could die here, and I knew that if he was Life Orb instead of specs, I could probably live 2. And we find out that's exactly what he is. He is a Life Orb set, so he is a Life Orb Starmie. He is timid, max special attack. We know that now. We know exactly what Starmie this is. We know we don't have to worry about it being scarfed. If it is in on Megalopony, I can safely just U-turn out if I want to. So here, I just decide I'm going to go for another air slash to try to take the chance. Oh, never mind. I go for a soft boil. And we see here, he goes down into Umbreon. I do pitiful damage with air slash. So I decide I'm just going to go out to my Heatran. And I make a double here out to Sarina, expecting him to go out into the Starmie. He goes out into Salazzle, which was a very big surprise to me that he went out into Salazzle whenever I had a Heatran out, which means he didn't have any idea that I was bringing the Scorching Sands, and I used that information later. Obviously, with my Sarina, I don't want to stay in on a Salazzle, so I just go ahead and go out into my Vaporeon, and I want to see what kind of set this guy has. He goes for the Toxic, which isn't surprising. So the next turn we learn that he is the sub-Toxic set, but I know that my flip turn will break that sub every single time, so that was a no drawback play for me. Go ahead and get a flip turn out, break his sub, and I get to go right back out into Heatran. Now here, I'm thinking maybe there's a good chance that he decides to stay in and try to Toxic me. Because he brought it in on me earlier, didn't expect the Scorching Sands, so I was hoping maybe he'd leave it in, but he doesn't. He ends up protecting, which kind of bummed me out. But that was a good scout on his part. That was him probably just trying to get a little bit of health back, but it was a good scout on his part. So now he knows that he cannot leave this thing in on me. Otherwise, he will just get destroyed by Scorching Sands. And here he makes a play that kind of confused me too. He goes out into the Crocodile. And I didn't expect that at all. I thought maybe he'd go out into Starmie or Umbreon. He goes in the Crocodile, and I get the burn, which was kind of big, potentially. It could potentially be big. So we see here, I decide, you know what, I know this thing's scarfed. I'm going to go for the Protect, see what he wants to go for. If he goes for a ground move, I know Togekiss is 100% free. If he goes for, say, Knockoff, I can go out into Megalopony, and I know he'll be locked into that, and he can't really hurt me. And we see he does pack the Stone Edge, so I don't know if he was expecting me to stay in, if he was expecting me to go out into Togekiss, but he goes for the Stone Edge, and that was a surprise. So I know he's got that, so we learn more information. I decided to just go for a Magma Storm and think, you know what, if he decides to stay in, I'm going to go ahead and get a big hit on this thing and potentially knock it out. But he decides to go out in Umbreon, and unfortunately Magma Storm misses, but that doesn't really matter. It would have only done about 20-some% to this anyway. Expecting him to go for something like either Heal Bell or Wish, I go ahead and go out to Sarina. Now, High Jump Kick can really do a lot of damage to this thing. I could also U-turn and do a good chunk of damage. And he reveals the Heal Bell. So I'm slowly learning more and more about this Umbreon set as the game goes forward. Now here he goes for the protect. I think he's maybe scouting for the high jump kick there. Maybe hope I do 50% damage to myself. I just decided no knockoff was a no drawback play because like if he brings in the Mawile, I can just pivot out on it the next turn anyway. It doesn't really hurt me at all if he brings in Mawile. So he goes for the knockoff. So I go for the knockoff. Next turn I go for the drop kick, expecting him to switch. And he goes for the foul play. And that did a lot. That did a lot more than I was expecting it to. And at this point I was like, okay, we're learning more and more and more about this Umbreon set. I don't think it has taunt at this point. Because if it has, we've seen all four of its moves. We've seen Wish, Foul Play, Heal Bell, and Protect. So we know it doesn't have Taunt. So we know Meowstic can come in and set up screens on it if we really want it to later. So here, I decide to just go for the U-turn. And he goes into Shiinotic, which, it makes sense. Because if he was expecting Drop Kick, he wasn't going to take any damage from that, hardly. And he knew that I couldn't really threaten this thing. So this was the point where I was like, okay, nothing I have can OHKO it from the range it's at. So I decided to go out into my Togekiss because I'm thinking, one, if Togekiss is the Mon that gets put to sleep, so be it. Or if I get I could get an Air Slash flinch. So I go for the Air Slash here, and I don't get the flinch. It does big damage, so we know that it's physically defensive. And he goes for the Spore, just puts me to sleep. I go right out into Heatran, because I just figure he can't touch me. He can't put me to sleep. He can't touch me. And he goes out into Salazzle, which I think was a pretty fair play for him. But I'm going to scare him out since he knows I have the Scorching Sands now. He goes out into Umbreon. We get the burn. That doesn't really matter. Synchronize can't activate because obviously I'm a fire type, so I can't get burned. I get the burn on him. I decided to go ahead and get Stealth Rocks up. He goes for the Heal Bell to heal off his burn, which is a fair play. So I decide I'm going to go out into Vaporeon. I'm going to get my own Heal Bell off because he can't really hurt me. And I'd like to get rid of Toxic on this. And I'd like my Togekiss to be awake. He goes out into Starmie, gets the Wish, which is kind of annoying. I know there's not really anything this thing can do that much. I took this chance. I wanted to see if he did have Thunderbolt. And two, if he didn't have Thunderbolt, I could have sat in front of this thing, got a Wish up, and healed up my Serena, which is what I was really hoping to get out of having Vaporeon in here. But he did have the Thunderbolt. It did a lot of damage to me. But I knew I could live another one. Here, I was hoping that he would go for another Thunderbolt. But I knew I could live an Ice Beam if he did go for it. And that's exactly what it is. He makes a really nice play here. Goes for the Ice Beam. I knew there was no way that I didn't live that hit. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have made that switch. I probably would have protected, let Vaporeon get a little bit more healthy before trying to pass the Wish. But I knew I could live, and we got a lot of health back. And that's real nice. He switches out here. I just go for the knockoff again. I saw no drawbacks to going for that. And 35 turns in, we get our first knockout of the season. It's Serena on the Shiinotic. And he goes out of the Mega Mawile here. And I was confused a little bit by that. Because I thought he would go out into Salazzle. That seemed like the safest play to me. I thought about going for a Trop Kick here. But I was like, you know what? Heatran is a very safe play. So I just go ahead and U-turn out. I go into Heatran, and he goes for the SD. And that was something I did not want to ever see happening, was this Mawile setting up Sword Stance. So I decide maybe he's going to switch out. He knows I have the Scorching Sands. He knows I have the Magma Storm. And he goes for the Sucker Punch, and it does a lot of damage to us. It does 68%. But obviously we lived it. I knew we lived it. And at this point, I knew that the odds of him having Brick Break were small. That meant he either didn't have Sucker Punch or he didn't have one of his stabs. After I saw that he had Stealth Rocks and Sword Stance. So, I'll go for Scorching Sands. It didn't get the kill, which I didn't I didn't expect to. It was a very high roll to get the kill. I was hoping maybe I could get the burn and then protect and stall him out. So I thought about this next play for a long time. It probably took me longer to make this decision than it took me to make any decision in this game. Doing the calcs, there was no way Play Rough at +2 could have killed my Heatran at the range it was at. So I didn't think there was any way he was clicking Play Rough here. I thought for sure he was going to click Sucker Punch. And he makes one hell of a play here and goes for the Play Rough and knocks out my Sarina. At this point, I thought I was in huge trouble. I was like, Sarina was my best check to Starmie. It was something I could pivot around with. It was a good switch into him on like Crocodile. And I thought, oh man, I'm in huge trouble at this point. I decided to go out into my Togekiss, and I was like, I'm just going to fire off a Flamethrower. I'm going to reveal the Flamethrower. He goes into Umbreon, which is a super safe switch. So I'm like, at this point, I'm like, I cannot allow him to pass a wish to that Mawile. I have it low. I want to keep it that way. So I'm like, every time this Umbreon comes in, I need to go to Vaporeon so it cannot pass this wish for free. I know doing calcs that with rocks and flip turn, this Mawile will die every time, which would not allow it to get the wish. So I'm like, every time the Umbreon comes in, I have to go Vaporeon. He goes for the wish. Whenever I come in, I go for the flip turn. I cannot allow that Mawile to get healed back up. So I decide I'm going to go to my Meowstic. I'm going to show what Meowstic does. I lost my main switch into this thing. And I decide I'm going to go for a Reflect here just because I'm scared of what the physical attackers can do to me right now. Again, Umbreon comes in, I go Vaporeon. It's a snap decision every time. So here, I decide I'm going to go ahead and get my own wish up because he doesn't have a wish to pass to anything. So something that I bring in will be able to get healed up later. He goes for the Rapid Spin, which I wasn't sure if he'd had, but that now makes him faster than Mega Lopunny. So I'm like, I need to shut this down. I go Meowstic, I click Yawn. And he gets the crit, and here he gets the crit through the Reflect. Obviously, the Reflect didn't matter. But without the crit, I get to live 2 of those because I am full specially defensive. So it's kind of a bummer. Didn't matter too much, but it prevented me from being able to stay in and Yawn again, expecting him to switch out. So I was hoping there he might have gone for another Surf, or he would switch out. He makes a really nice play here and goes for the Thunderbolt. But again, the Starmie is getting worn down from its own life form. So I go to this, I make a nice double out here into my Mega Lopunny. I wanted to get Mega Lopunny. I've been wanting to get Mega Lopunny in for a while. This was my perfect opportunity to do it. So I go to my Mega Lopunny. He goes for Protect. I thought he was going to switch out into Salazzle. I go for the U-turn. He obviously went for the Protect, scouting for the high jump kick. So I take this opportunity. I say, you know what? He doesn't have a wish out. I'm going to take this opportunity. I've got my Mega Lopunny in. I'm just going to hit something really, really hard. I go for the close combat, and we OHKO that Umbreon. So that was huge. That meant that Starmie that's weakened, whittled down, it's not getting its health back. Mega Mawile that's down at like 15%, it's not getting its health back. That was such a huge play for us. And Mega Lopunny gets its first KO of the season. Here he goes out into Starmie, and I'm thinking to myself, this has to be a misclick. It didn't make any sense to me. I'm sitting here thinking to myself, what does this thing get? Does this thing get Aqua Jet? Does it get some kind of weird priority move that I don't understand? So I'm like, I'm just gonna go for the U-turn. U-turn would have KO'd from that range. I was just really, really perplexed by his decision to send in Starmie there. I was wondering if it was a misclick, but I U-turn out and I go into Vaporeon. I'm thinking I can take this opportunity to maybe heal up, but I just go for the flip turn because I didn't want him to get behind a sub. And I go out into my Heatran, and I'm just like, I'm gonna click Scorching Sands here. He goes for the Toxic, which surprised me, and he lets his Salazzle go down. And we can start to see the holes get punched in his team, and Heatran picks up his first KO of the season. And here he goes into Crook. I didn't know what he was going to go for. I thought for sure we'd see the close combat come out again. So I just like, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and protect, see what he wants to go for. And he goes for the Stone Edge. I did the calcs. I knew that I lived this 100% of the time. And Scorching Sands, I thought was a roll, but he had some bulk on that thing. So I just let my Heatran go down. And I didn't see any reason to keep it around. I knew that as low as the Mega Mawile was, the Mega Lopunny could KO it pretty easily. Even Vaporeon or Togekiss could KO it pretty easily. And here, I send out my Mega Lopunny. I eat the Stone Edge. I know it's not going to do that much of it. I go for the U-turn, which might have been a losing play in retrospect. I probably could have just faked it out and killed it and cleaned his team. But I was trying to play it super safe, and at the end, I felt like it might have been a losing play after I made it. He goes out into this. I yawn it. I'm like, you are not going to get up any big Swords Dances on me. You're going to get yawned. That simple. I get my Reflect up because at this point, I'm not really that worried about Starmie. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to T-Wave it. That way, it's probably going to try to get Rapid Spins up so it can outspeed my Lopunny. And that's exactly what he did. He went for the Rapid Spin. But I'm like, no. Gonna get the paralysis on you. I go out into Togekiss knowing I can live any one hit, any two hits from this thing. He goes to +2 speed. He gets the Para this turn. It really wouldn't have mattered unless he would have got a Freeze or a Para. And Togekiss cleans the game up. Gets with the Air Slash on Starmie and the Flamethrower on Mega Mawile. So that is going to be GG to Coach Bucks, and we pick up a clean 4-0 victory. This game took a long time. I think, like I said, the first KO didn't come until turn 35. But once I got rid of the Umbreon and he wasn't able to heal his team up, he didn't have the ways to deal with the rest of my Mons, especially since when his Umbreon went down, his Mega Mawile was at 15%, his Starmie was under 50%, and not having ways to heal them back up really hampered his ability to try to make a comeback against us. I'm really looking forward to playing him again at the end of the season, and we'll take that clean 4-0 victory and go to 1-0. Let me know what you guys thought of the battle down in the comments. Let me know what misplays I maybe made, if you would have done anything different. And we'll catch you guys for week 2. See you later.